Shen Weiyao was kissed so passionately that she could hardly breathe, and tears began to fall. Looking into his reddened eyes, she finally spoke, her voice choked with emotion. Wife addiction. After downing 2 cups of Bayu, Shen Weiyao's vision seemed to be veiled through a layer of warm, frosted glass. A burning, searing sensation surged across her face. Her half-lowered gaze barely managed to make out the man sitting opposite her, familiar, yet strangely unfamiliar. He sat in a languid posture, casually crossing his long legs. At the neckline of his smoke-gray shirt, a sharply defined, pristine chin stood out against the fabric. The dinner had been going on for half an hour, yet from start to finish, his body had never once come close to the round table, let alone touched the wine glass in front of him. Jiaoshan, keep going, the boss sitting to her right whispered a plea. Shen Weiyao's tip of the nose suddenly felt slightly sour. Due to the company's fiscal deficit, all employees hadn't received their full salaries by year-end. The boss had gone to great lengths, begging and pleading to secure an investment partnership, only to find that the partner insisted on picking one of the company's top technical experts. Yet no matter how many toasts this group of elite professionals raised, none could move this man to show mercy. He's not satisfied with any of the explanations, not wanting the collaboration to fall through. The boss gritted his teeth, disregarding everything, and made Shen Weiyao the only one who hadn't offered a toast stand up. Just a secretary. The responsibility is to keep the contract that's to be signed tonight. I didn't expect to drink tonight before I came here. I never expected that the president of our partner would turn out to be Shen Weiyao. Shen Weiyao. As she thought this name again in her heart, Shen Weiyao felt as if fine needles were piercing deep into her eyes. She quickly lowered her gaze, gently easing the sharp pain that had instantly reached the very depths of her pupils and the moist, burning sensation that was about to well up. Next, I tilted my head back and drank the last sip. The boss doesn't know yet that Shen Weiyao is her ex-boyfriend. My ex-boyfriend who I broke up with 6 years ago. Her ex-boyfriend, who was heartlessly dumped by her after the college entrance exam ended and they both came of age. The two spent a wild night at a hotel. Shen gently asked her again and again, persistently urging her to say she loved him. She replied to him with a single phrase, "I'm sick of it." The young master wasn't surprised at all. Instead, he just pressed harder, squeezing every last bit of passion out of her. Once it was over, they went their separate ways. To ask her to propose a toast given Shen Weiyao's rebellious and untamable nature. It'd be a miracle if he didn't just turn his back and walk away. And yet you still expect him to. The contract. Having done all that could be done out of kindness and duty, Shen Weiyao finished his drink and then left it at that. Leaning her head on the table with one hand propped up, she raised her gaze slightly and finally saw the man shift his sitting position. The assistant beside him nodded in understanding and handed the wine glass from the table to the man's hand. Shen Weiyao was taken aback for a moment. It suddenly dawned on him she didn't actually like drinking. He'd been waiting here for her all along. Watching her pride and self-respect now shattered into pieces, he must be feeling utterly relieved and satisfied deep down inside. The boss was thrilled and immediately filled Shen Weiyao's glass to the brim. With a highly attentive expression, he introduced the man. "Shen is my secretary." Shen casually twirled the glass of wine in his hand but didn't take a sip. "Not a key member?" Seeing the man frown deeply, the boss enthusiastically pitched his pitch. "But it's even better than a backbone." A silence fell over the table, and everyone stared at Shen Weiyao's reaction. The wine glass he held in his hand, but didn't drink. After a long pause, the man's languid, low chuckle reached her ears to barely audible words. "Is that so?" Shen Weiyao held the 4th glass of wine between her fingertips. The alcohol made her reaction slightly sluggish. The gaze across from her seemed to linger on her as if it were both present and absent at the same time, leaving her body stiffened, unable to move. The two words smiling uttered by him carried a hint of sarcasm amid the distance, making her even less inclined to look up and make any kind of contact with him. She just wanted to turn around and flee. But can she escape? Fu Shen glass of wine left everyone feeling anxious and unsettled. If you don't drink, we can't finalize this collaboration. It's already been served up, just one final push to the finish line. The boss could only whisper softly to Shen Weiyao, "Xiaokan, you'll have a better chance of success if you leave me. Seize this opportunity and help me secure this partnership below yuan. The company is counting on you." In fact, everyone present was thinking the same thing. Fu Sen didn't want any of the elite people at the table. Yet he was interested in a young and beautiful secretary. It's easy to guess 9 times out of 10, he was only attracted to her outward appearance, and it goes without saying what he had in mind for her. But Shen Weiyao thought differently from the others. She knows one thing very clearly. Now that the economy is in decline, nearly 10 million new college graduates each year can't find jobs in the talent market. She was one of those who couldn't find a job 2 years ago. It was the boss who gave her the job opportunity. Although secretarial work isn't her area of expertise, she's learned a lot over the past 2 years. Realizing this, Shen Weiyao rose once more, her hands gently lifting the wine glass. Her gaze lingered slowly and steadily on Fu Shen. Though they were separated only by a table, it felt as if they were worlds apart, impossible to bridge no matter how hard she tried. The man's glance, casually cast in her direction, was utterly expressionless. He quickly looked away, not lingering on her face or body for even a single second. She took a deep breath, handed over the drink, and her voice trembled slightly from the alcohol and nervousness. "Mr. Fu, I'd like to offer you a toast." Fu Shen raised his eyes, his gaze landing on the reddened corners of her eyes, then sweeping over her head. Clutching the wine glass so tightly that the knuckles had turned pale, his thin lips curved ever so slightly, and instead of taking the glass, he leaned in closer. His warm breath brushed against the shell of her ear as he spoke in a voice only the two of them could hear. "Secretary Shen, this is not how you're supposed to offer a toast." Shen Weiyao's face turned pale in an instant. Seeing this, the boss quickly stepped in to smooth things over Mr. Fu. "Zhao Shen just graduated not long ago on decent, very experienced. Please bear with him a bit." Sure." Fu Shen interrupted him, his tone nonchalant yet laced with an unmistakable air of authority. "When I Shen, pick people, I never care whether they're mature or not. I only care whether they can get the job done." He looked up at the boss and said in a cold tone, "The contract can be signed, just let me write down the conditions." "Done." The special assistant handed over the document, and as soon as the boss flipped it open, his face froze. At the end of the agreement, it boldly stated Shen Weiyao will be transferred to Fu Group along with the project and will report directly to Fu Shen. After the dinner party ended, Shen Weiyao was driven back to her rented apartment by Fu Shen's driver. Leaning against the cold wall, she stared at the message Fu Shen had sent her on her phone. "Report to the president's office of Fu Group tomorrow at 9 a.m. She thought this was just the beginning of his revenge, but she never expected that the next day would bring her a marriage agreement. Sitting behind his spacious desk, Fu Shen tapped his fingertips lightly on the surface as he looked at Shen Weiyao, who stood in the doorway. His tone was casual, as if they were discussing an ordinary business deal. "My family has been pressuring me to get married, so I'm handing this job over to you, Secretary Shen. It's for 1 year until double your annual salary. You're free to use all of Fu Corporation's resources however you see fit." Shen Weiyao held the agreement in her hand, her fingertips turning pale. "Fu Shen, are you crazy?" "Crazy?" He raised his eyes, staring at her with a somber gaze. "Compared to 6 years ago when you said you'd gotten sick of it, I'm still way behind." In the end, he still signed the document not for the money, but for her boss's company and for her colleagues who were waiting to get their paychecks. The news spread like wildfire. and the Fu family was thrown into chaos. At the family dinner, old man Fu slammed the table and scolded, "It's a match made in heaven. Literally, of all the women out there, why did you, Fu Sen Ian, have to marry someone like this?" Fu Sen Ian took Shen Weiyao hand and said softly, "I'll remain a bachelor for the rest of my life. My Aunt Midas and Midas Law chimed in, saying, Hi woman shouldn't marry down, and a man shouldn't marry up. What you're doing is just pushing yourself into a pit of fire." Fu Sen didn't even look up. "I'll kill myself, I'll get married." Shen Wei sat quietly beside him, her fingertips painfully clenched in his grip, but she didn't even give him a single glance. During a dinner gathering, Shen Weiyao was sarcastically teased by her cousin for climbing the social ladder. Unable to take it anymore, she slapped Fu Senian right in front of everyone. The entire venue fell instantly silent. Fu Sen turned his head slightly and touched the cheek that had been slapped. Far from being angry, he let out a low chuckle and looked at everyone. "You guys really love watching us husband and wife bicker and flirt, don't you?" After the gathering broke up, Shen Weiyao shook off his hand and said coldly, "Fu Senian, don't push it too far." Yet he reached out and pulled her into his embrace, resting his chin lightly on the top of her head. His voice was low and deep. "What's wrong with me?" "Fu Senian," raising a little troublemaker. "Just suck it up if you're unhappy." Shen Weiyao's heart gave an inexplicable little tremor. Days passed one by one, and though the two lived under the same roof, they still felt like complete strangers. He'd make her breakfast, remember her menstrual cycle, and pick her up after she stayed late at work, but he never once uttered a kind or tender word. She remained as cold and distant as an ice cube that could never be warm. Gradually, rumors began circulating within the company that the couple was heading for divorce. Rumors claimed Shen Weiyao was unable to conceive and that Fu Sen Ian had found a new love interest. At the celebratory banquet, the two remained completely unresponsive to each other, sitting far apart, and the rumors only grew louder and more persistent. Only the special assistant knows that the wedding date, coming up in a year, is fast approaching. After the cocktail party ended, Fu Senyan got thoroughly drunk and was driven home by his driver. He burst through the door, stumbled unsteadily toward Shen Weiyao, pulled out the marriage agreement from his briefcase, and, right in front of her, tore it into tiny pieces. Paper scraps were scattered all over the floor. He reached out and gently pinched her chin. His scarlet eyes were filled with tears, and he kissed her frantically, his voice hoarse and broken from the alcohol. "Shen Weiyao, I've spent an entire year trying to warm you up, but still, I can't seem to get even a fraction of your warmth, can I? 6 years ago, you said you'd had enough. I waited for you to come back, waited for 6 whole years. Just when I finally managed to tie you to my side, you won't even give me a single glance. Is that all you think of me? Fu Senian, enough to make you feel disgusted?" Shen Weiyao was kissed by him so intensely that she could hardly breathe, and tears began to fall. She looked into his eyes, which were red with passion. She finally spoke, her voice choked with emotion. "Fu Senian, you know perfectly well I'm not disgusted by you and just afraid. I'm afraid of falling in love with him again, afraid that his feelings are just a passing whim, and afraid that in the end, it'll be her all over again." Fu Senian was stunned. He let go of her, stared at her ears, and awkwardly reached out to wipe them away. His voice trembled with emotion as he said, "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Shen Weiyao, please stop hiding from me, okay?" She saw the vulnerability in his eyes and finally nodded. Moonlight streamed in through the window, falling softly upon the two people embracing each other. This marriage, a pact born of revenge, ultimately succumbed to the deep affection that had been hidden for 6 long years.